I was driving home from my friend Mark's place. It was around 1:30 a.m., and the roads were empty, just long stretches of asphalt and darkness. I had taken the back roads, the kind that run between stretches of farmland and woods, mostly because I liked the quiet and didn't want to deal with the late-night drunks on the highway. The first time I noticed the car behind me, it was at a four-way stop. I didn't remember seeing any headlights behind me before then, but suddenly, there they were, bright and too close. I pulled forward slowly, and the car followed. At first I didn't think much of it. People take the same roads all the time. It's just coincidence. But after 15 minutes of turning, curving through dark back roads, the car was still behind me. I tested it, took a left where I normally would have gone straight. The headlights followed. I made another turn, then another, still there. No matter what I did, they stayed the same distance, never speeding up, never backing off. Just there. I started to feel that low buzzing anxiety in my chest. You know the kind, like your body knows something is wrong before your mind catches up. I reached over and locked my doors. I told myself it was probably just someone going the same way I was. But at 2 a.m., on empty back roads that twist through nothing but trees and cornfields, I decided to test them. I pulled into a small gas station off a side road, the kind with just 2 pumps closed at night, but with enough light to make me feel a little safer. I parked near the entrance, left my engine running, and watched in my rearview mirror. The car pulled in behind me. They didn't park. They just stopped. Their headlights stayed on, lighting up the inside of my car in a harsh white glow. I couldn't see their face. The glare was too strong. But they didn't move. They just sat there, engine humming. I pretended to look for something in my glove compartment, stalling, waiting for them to make a move. Maybe they'd get out and ask if I was okay. Maybe it was someone I knew and hadn't recognized. But no, they just waited. Eventually, I put the car in drive and pulled back onto the road. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. I took a hard right without using my blinker. The car followed. At this point, I was genuinely scared. I wasn't sure what to do. Calling the cops didn't feel useful. I didn't have a clear emergency, just a car that kept following me. But my gut was screaming. Something was off, deeply off. I drove faster. So did they. I slowed down. So did they. I made a sudden U-turn. So did they. Finally, I took a turn down an old dirt path leading to a dead-end service road I remembered from high school. It was dumb, I know, but I had this idea. I'd stop, reverse, and box them in. Maybe confront them. Maybe get their plate, number, something. I pulled in, turned around fast, and stopped in the middle of the narrow road. My headlights lit up the trees. Then I waited. Nothing. I waited a full 2 minutes. No car, no headlights, no sound of an engine coming down the dirt road. I slowly backed up, thinking maybe they'd turned off their lights and were creeping in slowly. But when I got back to the main road, it was empty. No car. No taillights disappearing down the road. Nothing. I sat there just breathing, listening to my engine and the wind in the trees. I don't know how or when, but that car had disappeared. I drove home shaking, constantly checking my mirrors, taking weird routes just to be sure I wasn't followed again. I didn't see another car until I hit the edge of town. I never found out who was behind me. I never saw the car again. But sometimes, when I'm driving late at night, I still get that feeling. The weight of headlights too close, too steady. And I can't help but wonder if that car is still out there, waiting for someone else to notice. This happened last October. I was driving cross-country to visit my sister in Oregon. I had just crossed into Northern California, empty, forested highways for miles, barely any other cars, no towns for hours at a time. It was late. Around 11:45 p.m., I'd been driving all day and had at least another hour before the next decent motel. I was exhausted and decided to stop at one of those small rest areas on the side of the highway. You know the kind. Just a couple of parking spaces, a bathroom, and some vending machines. The lights above the restrooms were flickering, and the whole place had this cold, abandoned feel. But I was tired. Too tired to care. I parked under a dim street lamp, turned off the engine, and leaned my seat back, just for a few minutes. I didn't want to sleep, just rest my eyes. The highway was silent, just the soft hum of wind through the trees. I closed my eyes. A few minutes later, I heard a car pull in. I didn't move, but I cracked my eyelids enough to peek out the window. It was a dark sedan, maybe black or dark blue, parked 2 spaces away. The windows were tinted. I waited, expecting someone to get out and head to the bathroom, but no one did. The engine stayed on, headlights off, just sitting there. That uneasy feeling crept in fast. I sat up slowly, trying not to look like I was watching. Maybe they were just tired like me, but something felt wrong. I looked around. The lot was surrounded by thick trees, no buildings or gas stations nearby. No cell service either. I'd noticed that earlier when I tried to load a podcast. A minute passed, then 2. Still, no one got out. I figured it was time to move on. I started the engine and pulled out slowly, glancing in the rearview mirror. As soon as I got back on the highway, the sedan pulled out too. It stayed behind me, a little too close. At first, I told myself I was just being paranoid. Same direction, same time, no big deal. But I tested it. I slowed down, almost to a crawl, waiting for them to pass. They didn't. They stayed behind me, close enough that I couldn't see their license plate in the dark. I sped up. So did they. I drove for another 15 minutes, my heartbeat pounding, harder than the engine. It was past midnight now. No exits, no other cars, no towns. Just me, the road, and the headlights behind me that wouldn't go away. Then, up ahead, I saw another rest stop. Smaller than the last, just one streetlight, and a couple of benches. I had an idea. I signaled like I was pulling in, slowed way down, and then, at the very last second, I swerved back onto the highway and floored it. In the mirror, I saw the sedan hesitate. It pulled into the rest stop slowly, then immediately backed out and started speeding up. They were trying to follow. My hands were slick on the wheel. I started looking for mile markers or signs, anything to tell me how far the next town was. I finally spotted a small blue sign. Gas, 12 miles, 12 miles. I drove like my life depended on it. Because, honestly, I was starting to believe it did. The car behind me stayed with me the whole time. They never passed me, never pulled up beside me. Just followed. No headlights flashing, no honking. Just silent, steady pursuit. When I finally saw the glow of a gas station sign in the distance, I almost cried. It was one of those 24-hour truck stop types. Bright lights, 3 pumps, and a convenience store with a few semis parked outside. I pulled in fast and parked right in front of the glass doors of the store. I threw the car in park, grabbed my phone, and rushed inside. There were 2 truckers sitting at a table drinking coffee. A woman behind the counter. I didn't say anything to them, just stood there trying to look like I was browsing snacks while watching the lot through the glass. The sedan never pulled in. I stood there for 10 minutes. No car, nothing passed, nothing parked. It just vanished. I stayed inside the gas station until the sun started coming up. Eventually, I filled up and drove the last hour to my motel in silence, checking my mirrors every few seconds. I never saw the sedan again. I never saw who was inside. No license plate, no face. Just a presence, a choice, and a feeling I've never shaken. I still think about it. What would have happened if I'd stayed asleep at the first rest stop? If I hadn't swerved back onto the road? Or if there hadn't been a gas station ahead? I don't know what that person wanted, or what they were waiting for, and I don't think I ever want to find out. A few years ago, I was driving from Colorado to New Mexico for a job interview. It was a long drive, and somewhere past 10 p.m., I decided I needed to stop for the night. I hadn't booked a hotel, figured I'd find something off the highway. When I got tired, I pulled into a small desert town just off Route 550. Not much there, just a gas station, a diner that was already closed, and an old two-story roadside motel with a neon sign that buzzed louder than it glowed. Sunset Inn. It looked run down, but I was exhausted. I just needed a bed and a shower. I went into the front office, and an older woman at the counter gave me a tired smile. The lobby smelled faintly of bleach and stale coffee. I asked for a room, and she handed me the key to room 209. "Second floor, last door on the left," she said, then added with a glance, "We've got cameras on all the entrances." That felt like an odd thing to mention, but I was too tired to question it. The room was what I expected. Dim, with heavy curtains, a stiff bed, and a humming mini-fridge. But it was clean enough. I locked the door, double-checked the latch, and took a quick shower. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I heard it. A soft knock. I froze. It was almost midnight. I hadn't ordered anything. I wasn't expecting anyone. The knock came again. 3 short taps. Not aggressive, just patient. I got out of bed and moved to the peephole, but it was too dark to see clearly. Whoever was out there wasn't standing close enough for the hallway light to hit them. Just a vague shape. Still, I didn't open the door. "Can I help you?" I called out. No answer. They just stood there. I watched for another few seconds, then backed away. My heart was pounding now. Something felt wrong. Off in a quiet, heavy way. I didn't want to call the front desk right away, in case it was nothing, so I sat on the edge of the bed and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. No more knocks. I finally dared to return to the door. The hallway was empty. I checked the peephole, opened the door a crack, and peeked out. The entire floor was silent. No movement. I closed the door, locked it again, and decided to try and get some sleep. But around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, walking past my door, then stopping, and another knock. Not from the front door this time, from the connecting door. You know, the kind that some motel rooms have to link to the one next door. I hadn't even noticed it before. This time, the knock was firmer. Then another. Then silence. I whispered, "Hello?" My voice cracked. No response. I tiptoed closer and noticed something strange. The light from the bathroom illuminated the bottom crack of the connecting door. But there was no shadow. No feet. Nothing. Someone was knocking but standing far enough away that I couldn't see them. I pressed my ear to the door. A sound came through. Breathing. Not rushed. Not angry. Just steady breathing, like someone was standing inches from the other side of the door, listening for me. I backed away, heart hammering in my chest, and called the front desk. It rang 4 times before the woman answered. I explained what was happening, tried to stay calm, but I could hear my voice shaking. She didn't sound surprised. Just said, "I'll send someone up." I hung up, sat on the bed again, staring at the connecting door. The breathing had stopped. 10 minutes passed. No one came. I called again. This time, no answer. So I did the only thing I could think of. I packed my bag, quietly, and left. I opened. The door slowly peeked into the hallway, then rushed down the stairs and into my car. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I glanced up at the second floor. There was someone standing at the window of room 208, the room next to mine. The lights were off, but I could make out the silhouette of a man, just standing there, watching me leave. I drove until sunrise without stopping. I didn't even think about sleep until I crossed the state line. Later that week, I looked up the motel online. It had no website, barely any reviews. But I did find a forum post from a woman who'd stayed there years ago. She described the layout, the front desk lady, even the room numbers. She ended her post with this: "Don't stay in 209. The door next to it doesn't lock properly, and the manager refuses to fix it. Someone came through it once while I was asleep. Just stood at the foot of my bed until I screamed. I don't know who knocked on that door, or why they waited so long, but I haven't stayed in a roadside motel since, and I don't think I ever will."